Good morning from Tech Central and really welcome to our Distributed Cloud webinar. Thank you all for joining us today as we discuss how it is possible to deploy cloud services securely in any environment, public cloud, on-premise, or at the edge. I'm going to hand over now to Daniel Robus, our host and moderator for today's session.
Thanks, Kerry, and thank you to Ahmed for joining us. To our attendees, getting international speakers can sometimes be a bit of a challenge, and Ahmed has stepped forward at the last minute due to an illness. So I really thank you for that and just applaud you for being brave enough to step forward at this short notice. Ahmed joins us all the way from Dubai, but he's actually an African. He comes from Egypt and has immigrated to Dubai about 4 years ago. Ahmed, you've been in IBM for 16 years, since you were about 12. They believe in getting them young at IBM. And he is the technical sales lead based out of Dubai, as I've said twice now. When I asked Ahmed a little bit about himself in preparation for this, my default is sport. And he just laughed. He said, Daniel, I live in Dubai. We don't do sport here. We watch movies and we enjoy reading. And I wanted to know, what's your go-to movie, Ahmed? What do you watch again and again and again?
Yeah, Daniel, that's a deep question. Deep inside, I used to love thriller movies, but now I have a 2-year toddler. So now I'm being forced into all of the cartoon movies, animation. It's not by choice, but by force. Otherwise, I'll get punched, screaming all day. So I guess that's the direction now. Watching
Thomas
animation and cartoon movies.
Come on, Thomas the Tank Engine. And a technical sales lead for Dubai, what does that actually mean? I'm imagining it's ECMEA, which is your playground. What do you do for the team?
Part of my day-to-day responsibility is basically to oversee a team of a very highly talented individuals. Cloud computing, we stay always on the edge. There is always something new when it comes to cloud computing. New AI services, new Internet of Things, blockchain. And recently, even on IBM Cloud, we announced the quantum computing available as a service on our platform. So staying on the edge is something that we do for a living. Managing a highly talented team to make sure that they are focused all the time. They are able to address all client requirements. They are able to design and to build solutions that only meet customer requirements, but also meet their financial budgets. So that's what we do for a living. And definitely being part of IBM, the big IBM, has been always a privilege. Because at the end of the day, IBM is not only in the cloud computing space. IBM has a wide range of offerings and portfolio of services around machine learning, AI, blockchain, IoT, you name it. So being part of the big IBM is also a big privilege, because this is when we get the chance to work with other teams, other brands, not only on the software side, but also on the hardware and services side. So it has been a very exciting journey over the past 16 years. And by the way, I was only part of the cloud division for the past 5 years, but before that, I was part of the services team. Before that, I was part of the software labs. So it has been quite interesting and fulfilling journey. And I look forward to the next perhaps 20, 30 years of career within IBM.
That's amazing. We had a client who showed us his commitment to his technology, which I won't mention, and he actually had the tattoo. And it sounds like, Ahmed, you are very close to getting the tattoo, the IBM tattoo as well. Now, IBM is quite a complex and a forward-thinking and competitive environment. This distributed cloud must have eaten into a lot of the traditional environments within IBM because of the flexibility and where it can deploy. Before we dive into the technicalities of it, what is distributed cloud to you and why does it fit into the world today?
That's a great question, Daniel. And let me start first by getting into the origin of the term distributed cloud. It's the first time that term was coined. It was coined by Gartner, I believe, in 2020. And the whole idea behind distributed cloud is many organizations and many customers were looking to have the agility, the flexibility of public cloud, but yet they were constrained either by internal security policies or by regulations that mandate their data to remain in country, or by the need to have applications and workloads that require very minimal latency. So if we look into the broader picture, we have clients and organizations who are very excited about the potential that cloud computing can bring in. And on the other hand, there are constraints with certain restrictions that prevent them from using public cloud. And this is where the whole idea behind distributed cloud came into life. And the whole concept is I need to bring the same cloud services that runs in any hyperscaler environment, IBM, Amazon, Google. I bring them to anywhere our customers want them to be. I can run the same cloud services on my own premises using the extra capacity of infrastructure that I have. I can run them on a third-party co-location facility. If I'm not into the data center business, yet I need something to remain in country, I can just go and have an agreement with a local hosting facility in my country, and using their own infrastructure, I can deploy the cloud services that are usually available with the hyperscalers. Or I can even, and this is when we talk about the lack of visibility and the operational aspect, I can have the same cloud services running across multiple clouds to maintain the visibility and the operational upper hand when it comes to how I manage my workloads, no matter where they run. So that was the main trigger behind distributed cloud. And although IBM has been quite, we have been definitely pioneering in many industries and many solutions. But when it comes to cloud, maybe we were a bit lagging behind. But when it comes to distributed cloud, we were by far leading in that space. And probably in the next few minutes, we can touch base more about the technicalities, as you said, about the IBM Cloud Satellite, which is our realization of distributed cloud and the capabilities that it can provide to our customers in a bit of more details. But for now, that definitely the main aspirations to have a solution like IBM Cloud Satellite to address and to tackle those challenges that we have talked about, and to bring the agility and flexibility of cloud computing to all of our customers, no matter where they are.
So if we think about a customer who's represented in South Africa, Mozambique, Dubai, and Saudi, and we are deploying one application, because Saudi, you have to keep the data in there, it would help the development environments to have a standardized platform, but they could still be running the same application irrespective in the same dev center. Okay, I get that. And this must be playing into some of the IBM strengths, because essentially we're then talking about private cloud, are we not?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you look into some of the use cases that has been developed around that, there are numerous set of use cases, and all of them are primarily focused on leveraging the private clouds environment that our customers might have. If you look into edge computing as an example, most of customers now, especially those who have started to infuse AI in their operation, whether they are an industrial client or whether this is a client who are looking to do video analytics on the edge, these kind of use cases were very difficult, if not impossible, to implement before. But now with something like distributed cloud, I can easily package my application and its dependencies, whether it's on AI services, on some custom machine learning model that I have built. I can package all of this and simply run them on the edge on top of my distributed cloud platform. Not only I'll be able to meet all the data regulations, but at the same time, I'll be able to run my applications and workload as close as possible to the data. And this way I can gain the benefits of a much better performance. There is no latency because application and data are sitting pretty much in the same space. And I gain the flexibility of the cloud computing. And I can simply move the same packaged application anywhere. I can simply deploy it, as you said, in a different country. If I'm a multinational company, I operate in multiple locations and multiple countries. I can simply deploy the same packaged application in South Africa, in Cape Town. I can move the application to run in the Middle East. I can move the application to run in North Africa.
It's irrespective. That's actually such a fantastic way of keeping code under control, because we can see it getting out of hand every time it changes geography. It sounds crazy today that it would get out of hand, but it does, doesn't it? And so tell me, do we need an exclusive IBM infrastructure that we're running on? So it's only the really big customers that can take advantage of satellite? Or do you have something for normal people like us?
Absolutely. And this is one of the beautiful things about satellite, is that we are not bounded to infrastructure.
Careful, you're talking price now.
Now we will come to that. But I mean, we're definitely not bounded to limited infrastructure choices. On the contrary, we believe that we need to give our customers the number one, the choice and the full control. So just to give you an example, a satellite can be deployed, and I'm going to definitely talk on satellite specifically because this is the IBM cloud offering when it comes to distributed cloud. So we can have the choice to run satellite on top of bring your own infrastructure. So customers can typically use their own hardware, their own resources to run satellite. We can deploy satellite on third-party co-location facilities. We can deploy satellite on other clouds, whether it's Amazon, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure. We also have an appliance-based format. If a customer doesn't have enough capacity and they still want to use their own data center, we can ship satellite in an appliance form so that customers can simply plug and play and have the satellite platform up and running in less than a day. So all the choices are there, and it always depends on the situation and customer preferences. And we are always trying to work closer with our customer to make sure that we are providing them with the best choices, not enforcing them on that. That's the only option that we have. On the contrary, you have a wide range of options. It's up to you to decide which option.
Aurora has asked a really interesting question, which is, must a distributed cloud substation always be connected, or can it operate with variable connectivity? Wow, great question. Aurora, I hope you're an architect.
Yeah, thank you, Aurora, for that. That definitely, it's a great question, which actually brings me to one of the capabilities that satellite can bring into our clients, which is the day-to operation and how satellite can facilitate the day-to operation on behalf of our customers. So not only we give the clients the ability to deploy services anywhere, but we offer them as a service fully managed so that customer doesn't have to worry about the operational aspects of those services. Why I'm saying that is because if I need to operate and manage those services that runs anywhere, then I need to stay connected to this setup that runs on premises, on a third-party facility, or even on other clouds. And by staying connected, I mean that I only need to connect to those satellite locations, as we call them, in order to be able to monitor the platform, to push patches, updates, to make sure that our support and SRE team can troubleshoot and can fix any issues that might happen to the platform, all the services that runs on top. So the answer is yes, definitely we need to stay connected, but mainly for management and operational purposes. That doesn't mean that the connectivity needs to be there 100% of the time. It can definitely vary. So even if I lost the connectivity to our global network of data centers, the workloads and the applications that runs on top will remain active, will remain up and running. So that wouldn't impact by any means the uptime for my application.
You're going to get there. I could see the answer was coming out. So if we thought about a use case of a trucking company which is using IoT to manage the truck bed, labor, load, and all the rest of it, even if they're going out of areas of connectivity, we would still be gathering the data, and we could then upload when we're back into a connected environment. Zamakukle has asked, can we make the move without affecting our daily operations? Zamakukle, I think you're going to have to clarify what move you want to talk around so that we give poor Ahmed a chance. I'm going to wait for Zamakukle to ask more on that, Ahmed, while I dive into. So we've spoken that it is adaptable. It can meet for most customers. I'm not going to get into the pricing now, but you've opened up a lot of use cases that customers are using, and you've spoken through a few of them. How is it impacting customer services that you've seen when you're going out and reviewing customers who have bought and have rolled out distributed cloud environments?
Well, Daniel, if you mean the potential or being able to unlock use cases for those customers, then I can see that it's almost limitless, because I have been a software engineer in my old days. So I have experimented how it used to look like when we are about to launch a new software project. It usually needed not less than a few months to be able to spin up any environment that we need just to start the software development piece. I'm not going to talk about the infrastructure because that's not the issue, but spinning up the middleware that we need, the databases, making sure that we are running on the same stack of middleware and software. That in itself took a lot of time. And time for our customer means revenue, means loss of revenue, means losing the opportunity to stay competitive in the market. So what the satellite or the distributed cloud is bringing in is the ability to not only accelerate and fasten the time to market through the ability to provision services, middleware, databases in less than a day, but also through the different DevOps tool that exists with satellite, I can easily accelerate the entire development lifecycle of any project. That's one aspect. And seriously, coming from a software engineering background, I can tell you that that used to take an enormous amount of time. That's one thing. And secondly, being able, and that brings us to the idea of hybrid cloud, which is one of the things that IBM has been always pushing for in the market. And we realized through various engagements and various conversations that we are having with clients is that public cloud is not always the answer for everything. Still, customer needs to have the privilege to own things on their own, deploy things on premises, on their own private clouds. So having the ability to start the development very quickly on, let's say, on public cloud, yet push all the updates, all the new artifacts quickly on premises using satellite was definitely a great door opener for many use cases. In fintech, for example. In fintech, we have been working with multiple fintechs across the region where they are leveraging this idea of hybrid clouds. They quickly start all the development, DevOps tool chains, the DevOps pipeline on public cloud, and leveraging all the services that they need from AI, from analytics, from machine learning. And once the development or the initial minimal viable product is ready, this is when they can push it on premises in country on top of something like satellite. And they keep building up the new features, upgrades, new enhancements on a daily basis. And those enhancements and those updates are being pushed continuously to the environment that sits on premise. So that's an example of how the whole fintech industries are being shaped now to meet in the middle, meeting all the regulations that exist in every country, because a fintech are becoming global now. And I don't want to be restricted to only operating in one or two countries. So I can have a satellite implementation in South Africa, meeting all the South African regulations. And I can have another one running in Zimbabwe or running in any of the Southern Africa countries, meeting all the local regulations. But yet my core runs on public cloud with all the nice features, high-tech technologies, and I keep pushing that to the on-premise deployments and setup.
You've touched on something which is the on-prem environment, and we've got a number of people when you say IBM that equals mainframe, and we've actually got a session on modernizing your mainframe in a couple of days. How is satellite working with your mainframe and ensuring that people don't miss this digital evolution and revolution whilst still keeping the mainframe going?
And mainframe has been and will always remain the back end of the most mission critical industries, whether it's airlines, whether it's banks, whether it's government. In Egypt, for example, most of the citizen data for the government are still on mainframe. And I actually spent my summer vacation in Cairo like a couple of weeks back, and I needed to renew my ID, my driving licenses, and my passport. In every single government service that I need to deal with, the entire databases that for the government are still on mainframe. So now mainframe will remain the core for all the mission critical applications. Now, how we can take this to the next level, this is when something like satellite can always help. Now, part of the roadmap of satellite is to be able to run on multiple platforms, not only on x86, but also to be able to run on Unix-based systems like Power and Linux-based Z-Linux on mainframe. So we are trying to expand the deployment options and the platforms where satellite can run so that it can also support the modernization strategies and the modernization journeys that our customers have started to embark, including mainframe customers. We're trying to help those customers to build modern applications based on microservices, container-based, and having the ability to deploy satellite on Z-Linux, for example, will allow them to unlock the potential, the huge potential of the data that sits on mainframe and create a wide range of use cases, applications that are completely distributed, that are completely scalable using containers and microservices technologies that can allow them to serve their constituents and end users in a much faster and a much better way. So that's just a way.
That was off-piste, and I'd like to say that was an amazing answer. It sounds like when we're architecting for these transformational projects where we've got a foundation that's got the mainframes, we need to engage with your team just to make sure we're ticking all the bases. I'm going to ask you a question about that just now. But when I think about my team and the retention of our teams that we've got on projects at the moment, what does it mean to their careers now? Why would they want to use your distributed cloud, even though you're late to the dance?
Most of our customers are not into the IT business, whether it's a banking client, whether it's a government client, healthcare, fintech. All those organizations and all of those customers needs to focus on their core business, which is providing services, providing applications to their constituents and end users. IT is there to help them to accelerate their transformation. IT is there to help them to be able to offer better and better services on a daily basis, which means that we need to provide them with the technologies that can help them to achieve their core mission, core vision with minimal overhead from an IT and technology perspective. And one of the things that distributed cloud can offer is basically through the management and the operational aspects that we bring into the table, we pretty much free the resources and the individuals that are there with any organization just to help them to focus on their core business, to focus on the things that they need to do best, whether it's to build the new applications, build use cases, or even to operate and manage them to ensure that they stay available 100% of the time. That's the core mission that we need to enable our customers to do. And we simply take care of everything else, the plumbing activities, as some people call it, taking care of the management and the uptime of the platform itself. Now, we also want them to be able to leverage the high-end advanced services from the catalog. That's why they don't have to worry about the provisioning, because this is something that we can do out of the box from the cloud portal. And we just give them the choice to deploy that anywhere that they want. So that's one aspect of it. Now, whether customers and organizations need to retrain their teams or not, my point of view, training and enablement is always something that needs to be there. But it's the question of whether I need to spend millions of dollars enabling and transforming my individuals and my employees on the cutting edge technology, or I just give them the needed ammunition to be able to run the business. And this is where we try to meet in the middle. We give them all the tools and services and technologies that can allow them to do that with the minimal overhead when it comes to training and enablement, so that we bring them up to speed at the shortest possible time.
Excellent. And this is a South African and SADC focused question. Your partners, are they up to speed? Is there a certification program for distributed cloud? Is satellite training available? And how do we know that they are proficient to work on it?
Yep. We actually, two things. We have recently launched what we call IBM Cloud Center of Training. And the IBM Cloud Center of Training is basically a complete library of everything that our customers and partners needs to be aware of when it comes to IBM Cloud, including definitely satellite. So it covers many aspects: solution architecture, application development on IBM Cloud, site reliability engineering, security. That's the first thing from a curriculum and learning perspective. And we developed a learning paths and certification programs to allow partners and clients, once they have gone through those curriculums and materials, to get the certification needed. Okay. IBM Cloud Certified Architect, IBM Cloud Certified Sales Engineer, Security Architect, and so forth and so on. For satellite in specific, we have developed also what we call the IBM Cloud Satellite Specialty. And it's a certification backed up by learning materials and curriculum on IBM Cloud Center of Training. So anyone can easily navigate through the materials, get the certification, and get all the needed training so that they are brought up to speed. So that's when it comes to the learning and enablement. Definitely. And this is always a work in progress. We keep enhancing, improving those materials to make sure that they are up to date and they have all the needed details that our customer needs to be aware of or to learn about.
So for the customers on the attendee list, if you're working with a partner and you want to get into satellite, I would ask if they've been on the training path. And if not, get your partner to go on the training path. Just for me, it gives you a sense of comfort that they've at least gone through it, even if you're walking hand in hand with Ahmed's team. So this package, this distributed cloud that you're enabling, that we can run from anywhere, that we can run depending on our requirements, enabling our DevOps environment. What's the contract period? Are we signing up for the next 10 years and the firstborn child? And
I know that there's lots of misconceptions and bad perceptions, unfortunately, but definitely the reality of cloud actually mandates that we also try to be flexible from a contractual and a commercial perspective. So satellite is no different than any cloud contract that you can sign with IBM or any of the hyperscalers in the market. We try to be very flexible. There is no upfront commitment that our customer needs to pay. It's all consumption-based billing. So the more resources you consume, the bills will get adjusted accordingly. If you consume less, definitely you pay less. We usually start with a 1-year contract, which is what we believe is usually not even the average, but the minimum that any customer would need to try new technology, test it and experiment with it in real life. But we can definitely sign longer terms contract, lesser. It always depends on the customer preferences. But we try to be as flexible.
Are you working for IBM? I'm just checking there. We're talking about flexible and pricing in the same sentence. Come on, Ahmed, that's amazing. I had to break in there because we've got questions that are coming through. Zamakokle has come back with the question regarding where we started, but organizations employing public cloud resources and have private cloud data centers inside their companies, but the connection between private and public is tenuous. Hopefully not, but yes, we agree. They have different approaches to instrumentation, orchestration, and provisioning. This leads to suboptimal cost of ownership, security and compliance gaps, latency and governance issues. I think the question is, how are you managing these integrations? Because Aurora has then asked what security vulnerabilities and requirements might come into play from a distributed cloud environment that we need to take care of. Now, just for our attendees, I have asked for Ahmed as a wrap-up what advice he would give on 3 steps for 3 decisions when architecting a distributed environment. So we're going to touch on that one now. But what security vulnerabilities and requirements come into play with this distributed architecture that we're looking at?
Yeah. And actually, that's another great question. Definitely, when we talk about distributed cloud, we are talking about multiple locations, and each location might not have the same security standards like all the others. But we try as much as possible to ensure that, and at least this is from a satellite perspective, we try, as part of the prerequisites that should be there, we try to require a minimum set of requirements that needs to be there in each location. And when we connect those locations back to the IBM cloud, because and maybe we haven't touched base on that earlier, the way that we give our customers the operational visibility that they need into the different satellite locations where their workloads and applications and services will run is that they connect back to the same IBM Cloud Portal. So the IBM Cloud Portal becomes the single pane of glass where our customers can do all the provisioning, get all the visibility of all the monitoring data and events into the same location or same dashboard, if I can call it this way. So now, the way we connect the IBM Cloud Portal as the main pane of glass for the operation, for the management, for the visibility, is through what we call satellite link. And satellite link is a secure link that connects the main head to the different location where satellite runs. And this link is very secure. It's highly encrypted. and also auditable, meaning that all the traffic that will flow over those links can be audited so that our customers know exactly what the type of data, what type of traffic that has flow from the locations to IBM Cloud and back and forth. So that's a necessary measure that we take. And when we do this connection, we ask customers to only limit the communication ports to only those that are needed by the satellite link. So that we limit the exposure surface to only the necessary ports that are needed to allow that communication to happen. And by encrypting the data, by auditing the data, we believe that we have created the minimal set of security prerequisites that should be there to ensure that there is no exposure or vulnerability whatsoever to the satellite locations that can be deployed in any location. That's the first aspect.
I just want to pause there. So if our head office is in Johannesburg, the center of the universe, and we have a satellite rollout in Saudi, they will allow this?
To allow the deployment of satellite in Saudi?
Yes, and the communication to head office in South Africa.
Yeah, well, it's always what we call a design pattern. At the end of the day, we can leverage either dedicated links or just an internet as a mean for that communication to happen. As long as it's highly secure, and this is what we ensure by making the communication traffic encrypted, then there is no constraints whatsoever. Some customers, by the way, are using internet as a mean to create those satellite links. Some other prefer to have a completely dedicated links. So they connect the satellite in, let's say, in Joburg to the nearest location of IBM Cloud so that the traffic itself doesn't have to flow over the internet. So definitely these kind of communication patterns are there to facilitate and to allow wider options or wider communication choices for our customers. But that's actually the first element. Now, there is 2 or 3 other elements when it comes to security: the security of the application and services, the security of identity and access management. So we try to, and this is something that we take seriously within IBM when it comes to security. We at the very minimum, we talk about security from 6 different domains: identity and access management, application security, data security, network security, you name it. So it's not only about the security of the platform. That's what I'm trying to say. But
absolutely. No. We get, I don't want to go down the security rabbit hole too far, but it sounds like when we are architecting this modern environment, there's a couple of key decisions that need to be taken when we're looking at just an architecture and expansion or modernization plan. What would you say are the 3 most important decisions required when architecting for a modern landscape from your perspective?
Yep. And again, this is based on some of the experiences that we have with customers. Modern application design has been always an area of lots of research. And the more people get into this domain, the more they find it's very interesting and very intriguing. But what we try to do with our customers is basically not to ask them to rip and replace everything that they have, especially when we talk about customers who have been building monolithic applications for quite long. The first thing that we work with them on doing is to create a parallel track where we start decomposing those monolithic applications into, or at least some of the services that are part of those monolithic applications into microservices that runs on containers. That's the first step. Not to rip and replace, but to start decomposing those monolithic applications into a set of services. And each service, we create a sprint or a track where we have a small squad of development engineers working on building up this service so that eventually the combination of the multiple parallel tracks that are running in parallel can converge into creating a completely new distributed cloud that can replace gradually this monolithic beast that used to run for decades. But that's the first thing. It's from a methodology perspective. We try to work in parallel track. We try to create a parallel environment. We try to create small squad team. Each one can be responsible for a specific set of service that they can develop, build, and own on the long term. That's one thing. The second thing is that we try to leverage as much as possible open source technologies. And the reason why I say open source technologies is that by far, open source technologies has been the fastest evolving technologies in the market, because when you look into it, it's not like one vendor who's contributing to open source. And that was one of the biggest reasons why we acquired Red Hat in 2019 is that we are the biggest sponsor of open source. And we are doing that because we don't want our customers to be locked into a certain technology that's only developed by one vendor. So not only you gain the evolution and the speed of innovation that open source is bringing in, but at the same time, you ensure that you are not locked into a certain technology that is developed by one vendor. And there have been lots of examples of technologies that has an upstream open source project and a downstream commercial supported project by vendors like Red Hat and others. So we try to embrace the open source to give the flexibility and the speed of innovation for those services. So that's the second thing. And then the third element is definitely the model that we are talking about, having this kind of hybrid deployment, being able to get the best of public cloud, but at the same time, being able to leverage technologies like distributed cloud to be able to meet regulations, to have applications running with a low latency, is the third element that we believe is speeding up the whole modern application development. So I would say from a very high level perspective, definitely there are lots of things that we can talk about more, but from a very high level perspective, I guess those were the main three things that can be a good starting point for any customer who are looking for modernizing their application or looking to build a new set of services and solutions that are backed by modern technologies, microservices, containers, you name it.
Ahmed, the cultural change that has taken place in IBM over the last 10 or 12 years must have been massive to move into this hand-holding environment that you keep coming back to. You keep coming back to satellite, encouraging hybrid environments, encouraging cross-pollination, encouraging multiple technologies and no vendor lock-in. That must have been quite a big change. And I think it's giving some advantages to your customers, which are often unlooked for. Are there any that you come across again and again and again, which are a surprise to customers that are unlooked for advantages?
If we talk about advantages are enormous. It's very difficult to articulate advantages. And even if we talk too much about the advantages our customers can gain from faster time to market, agility, the ability to build and develop services in almost no time compared to before, which creates a very competitive advantage for those customers who are embracing these new technologies versus others who are still either using a single model like only public cloud or just building up applications on their own premises. Advantages are always enormous. And the best way to articulate this is by simply showing some of the use cases and case studies that our customers have gone through. And we have a couple of actually public references on IBM Cloud when it comes to this domain, whether it's healthcare facilities in Europe who have embraced satellite to create lots of applications and services that were meant to address the recent pandemic, offering information about how they can fight COVID, or asking citizens to enroll for vaccination, or providing the facilities for clients to book appointments to do the PCR tests. So being able to, and this is just an example, being able to roll out those kind of services in almost no time is the biggest advantages for those customers who started to embrace these new technologies that we are talking about. Wow. And we know that healthcare is by far the most restricted industry because of the data sensitivity reasons and the need to ensure the privacy of everything related to patient profiles, the exchange of data, and so forth and so on. So being able to maintain those controls in place and at the same time to launch services and applications in no time is by far one of the biggest advantages that our customers are gaining by leveraging those technologies that we are, just discussing and talking about.
That's a fantastic answer. Thank you, Ahmed. Where can I go and see these references? Is this on ibm.com/references? Is it that simple?
Absolutely. And we can definitely share the links with all the attendees just for them to get an idea about, those, couple of case studies that we are talking about. And another example, and this is coming from the Middle East, and this is also a public reference. Idarat in Saudi Arabia was one of the first service providers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia who signed up for IBM Cloud Satellite. The value they saw out of Satellite is being able to transform the data center and to transform the services that they are providing to their end customers from just providing infrastructure to providing a complete platform as a service capabilities, databases, middleware, OpenShift, container management platform, and so forth and so on. So that's another revenue stream for one of our customers in the Middle East region, where they saw an advantage of transforming their existing data center from simply providing infrastructure into providing a wide range of platform services to their end customer. Again, it all serves the end customer, who can be a healthcare organization, it can be a fintech organization, it can be a government customer who will eventually use the local data center of Idarat, but they will be able to leverage the state-of-the-art technologies that we will bring on top of Idarat data center, from AI, cloud-native technologies, you name it.
That is, I love that. We've got 15 minutes left, and I'd like to bring you in and ask you the questions that I wanted to right at the beginning. So what is the most exciting development that you are seeing coming out of this satellite team in the next 6 months? Are there any new announcements that are coming? Is there anything that our attendees can get an early view of?
Absolutely. Again, I definitely need to put some disclaimers that these are part of the roadmap, so it's always subject to changes. But we have been focusing a lot on getting Satellite to become the platform where our customers can run most of the technologies that they are familiar with in the market on top of it. And I'm not sure if our audience are familiar with IBM Cloud Paks. IBM Cloud Paks is the new generation of IBM software. So the whole middleware stack of IBM, the analytics portfolio, the security has been completely redesigned into a new form factor based on microservices and container in the form of what we call Cloud Pak. So now we have Cloud Pak for Cloud Pak for integration, which includes all our middleware stack, Cloud Pak for data, which includes all the analytics portfolio, databases, data warehouse, big data platforms, AI, powered by Watson, as well as Cloud Pak for security, Cloud Pak for automation, which includes all the great products around FineNet, business process automation, and so forth and so on. So now we are bringing in those Cloud Pak capabilities to be able to run Satellite, so that our customers can not only leverage the cloud services that we have on our platform, but also to be able to leverage the Cloud Pak technologies on top of Satellite. We are even taking this to the next level, where we are offering those Cloud Paks to run as a service on top of Satellite. So even the provisioning, the data operation, the management of the Cloud Paks becomes a given. Customers doesn't have to worry about that. That's one thing. And the second thing, and maybe that's something that we have mentioned also during the conversation, is the ability to have Satellite running on multiple platforms, whether it's the x86, whether it's the Unix-based systems. And again, this is the biggest benefit, because we want customers to be able to leverage any type of infrastructure that they might have. So being able to run Satellite on multiple platforms, Linux or mainframe, Unix-based systems, or x86 is something that our teams have been trying to focus on, so that we give our customer flexibility and choices. And lastly, creating those industry-based clouds on top of Satellite. And again, maybe we haven't touched base on that at the beginning, but we know for sure that being one of the hyperscalers in the market, most of the cloud providers have been focusing on technology services. But what they lack is the industry expertise and the industry flavor for their clouds. And this is where, by the way, from where the term vertical clouds came in, is being able to create vertical clouds on top of the public cloud environment that we have. So things like financial services cloud, things like healthcare cloud, things like government cloud. So the whole concept of being able to bring in the industry experience, the industry-specific applications and services to cloud is something that IBM is embracing big time nowadays. And we have started already with two main vertical clouds. The first one is the financial services cloud, which not only embraces a wide range of third-party and ISVs who have developed intensively in this industry, from core banking applications, customer experience, security, and we are bringing them all on board to become part of the financial services cloud for IBM. But we are also looking into how to ensure that all the financial services regulations from a security perspective is being backed into our platform. And that's why security framework, the IBM Financial Services Security Framework, was born. And we are porting this financial services security framework to run on IBM public cloud as well as on satellite. So now customers will gain the same security best practices, the same set of security services that can run on both IBM public cloud as well as satellite. So that's a very exciting thing. And this is coming very soon in this quarter. Our customers can easily deploy and run all the financial services workloads very safely on satellite, leveraging the extensive expertise and capabilities that we have developed in the financial services industry. So those are just a few of the things that I'm very excited about. They all serve our customers in different ways to ensure that we are able to cater for any kind of requirements that are coming from our customers, industry-based, technology-based, or even on innovation perspective.
What are you working on until our Christmas, the end of this year?
Well, two things definitely. From a management side, I want to get my team to be up to speed with all the latest announcements that we are describing now. So I just named only three, because definitely we didn't have the time coming. But if you look into the actual roadmap, it's massive. So being able to, we as an IBMers, to catch up and be up to speed with all these enhancements, improvements, and features is definitely a priority for me and my team. That's for this quarter. And the second thing is that I'm really super excited about satellite because, and this is a fact, we will never be able to spin up and build an MZR or a data center in each country across the globe. So having the ability to extend our services to locations where we don't operate or we don't exist is something that definitely is giving us a big advantage. So I want to ensure that our ecosystem of partners are enabled on this technology of satellite, on distributed cloud. I want to make sure that we have a very extensive network of business partners who not only understands the technology very well, but they can also do services, professional services on top of it for our customers. And by creating this ecosystem of partners, we will be able to scale dramatically and support our customers everywhere. So I would say those are the main two priorities. Definitely there are other things that are being cooked in, but just for the sake of time, I know that all my answers are quite long, so I'm gonna stick to that for the time being.
My last question, Ahmed, is probably the most difficult one. For our attendees and for the folks who watch this webinar afterwards, who are not IBM nor satellite customers, what advice would you give them when they're embarking on a distributed cloud strategy?
Satellite.
You can't say that, man. Come on.
You asked me for a short answer, and it's difficult to answer.
Give me a long answer. Give me a long answer.
Seriously, on a serious note, so I think we talked briefly about the three guidelines that we generally try to advise our customers on: embracing open source, starting with smaller teams, building up services. I guess the same can apply for distributed cloud. Distributed cloud is a journey, so you don't have to boil the ocean and get all the capabilities for the distributed cloud from day one in your data center. We usually ask our customers to start small with what we call an MVP, or a minimum viable product. Start with the most pressing need or the most valuable use case that you want to implement. And from this point onwards, you can build the capabilities within your team, within your organization. You can build the stamina that you need to scale up later on. You will be able to understand all the dynamics of managing and building and scaling distributed cloud environment like satellite. So that's the only advice that I can say, because by time, it becomes very easy for anyone and everyone to be able to deal on their own with the dynamics and the innovation of the distributed cloud can bring in.
Excellent. Thank you, Ahmed. For our attendees, I would recommend reaching out on LinkedIn to Ahmed. He is sitting in Dubai and has plenty of time on his hands and enjoys interacting with customers. But no, who do our customers speak to in the South African context, Ahmed? Where do they go to the South African office, or can they reach to you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely, both options are there. Our team in South Africa is very diverse, and IBM has been in South Africa for a very long time. So all our attendees and participants are very welcome to reach out to our South African team. And definitely to myself directly. I'm very happy to have any conversation with any of our participant and audience at any point of time. And even if not myself, any one of my team members and colleagues will be welcoming to have this conversation directly. So reach out anytime.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming in and providing us an overview and an insight into satellite. Distributed cloud is a reality. It is an advantage that you can give to your business. And I think that starting it correctly is probably the best thing that I've heard today. Ahmed, your advice to customers, your insight and your in-depth knowledge has been really refreshing and provided me an understanding of what satellite is. I'm keen to see a couple of South African references there. We didn't even ask that today because there were too many questions to ask. So maybe the next time I'll ask you about a couple of those. But from my side, Daniel Robus, thank you for allowing me to facilitate. And just to ping you a couple of questions to our attendees, thank you for staying on for the hour. And I'm going to hand back to Kerry.
Thanks again, guys, for attending today. I really hope that you found today's session insightful and that we've answered some of your questions. We always appreciate your input on our sessions, so pop me a mail, send me a tweet or email, and let me know what you thought of today's webinar, and obviously what you'd like to see in future webinars too. Cheers from Tech Central, stay safe, and we'll see you at the next one.